think the will to live is externally sourced, although I do think like depression, things like that. However, what I'm saying is if you can readily accept, as can I, that that's innate, why can't an innate sense of morality point to something out? Like if you're, just because you're born with something or it's learned, in no way goes for or against the existence of a precursor to these things. Like
Well, it
you
doesn't,
could say it's evolutionary. The people who wanted to kill each other, they're all dead. So now it's just
the
us.
thing is, why would we go to God with it? I mean, I'm not saying this disproves God. I'm just saying, why is there any reason for us to lead to God with that? Because we clearly see that we can fully establish the reasoning behind this and see that this is natural and functional. So why would we possibly go to God with this?
Supernatural, but
I know
natural.
it doesn't. But why would we go to God with this? Like, there is no reason to go
Why
there.
wouldn't you?
There is no reason. I need a path to go to God with this, but there is none. I just see that it makes complete sense. It is functional, and there is no reason why we should assume that this is because of God. The same thing is the case with a lot of these teleological arguments, for example. I don't know, cosmological arguments, where we have different ways to explain something, but then we simply explain it with God without actually having a proper evidential basis, a proper bridge that leads to God. And here in this case, it is even more obscure. We don't have any reason to go to God at all.
All right, back to my original question then. Your arguments against a God, they were born out of a rage against Allah, or some sort of like apathy or displeasure in the God that you'd been presented with since childhood.
Yeah, I think one of the I mean, it was more just a series of questioning, which at a stage of questioning, I just thought that Allah can't be true and that Islam can't be true. And further in that process, I also then just established reasons not to believe in God altogether. But that happened over years. I don't think it's a result of a rebellion or a rage against Islam. I think it's just part of it.
Sure, I disbelieve what you just said. I think that as a defense mechanism against, so I don't know, because I have apostatized from like wildly left-wing politics, I suppose. I don't know, like I haven't really got much to draw on. I do know about self-preservation though, and I know that once you're fully aware that you've been caught up in a delusion for the majority of your life, like you spoke about the last time we spoke, like a resentment or a not being too bothered if you avenge yourself, like by exposing Islam. Therefore, I think it's just potentially a protection mechanism against falling for another. Do you know what I mean? Like seeing all theism then in the same thing. But I don't know if we're going to get onto this debate today or not. But I would argue that Allah does exist because of the very close proximity, linguistically, theologically, spiritually, manifestly, his connection to Satan of the Bible, who I do believe exists. So I could then have to go on to justify his existence. But what I mean to say is 1.4 billion people at the moment, hundreds of millions of people throughout these 1400 years. That's such a powerful delusion that I can't, even though I know a lot about psychology and mass psychology and group hysteria and all, like, maladjusted, malformed, like all of that doesn't come close to explaining the phenomena for me in terms of some non-external agent. Like, it just seems to me that evil is being perpetrated in the name of a fiction.
I actually wanted to make a video long ago about, I still have a note up there to remind myself of that, why Islam became successful. I wrote that down a year ago and never went ahead with that.
Right, underneath Satan, and then put in brackets, ask K. And then,
no, I think that I think Islam became successful as a result of a series of events that where Muhammad was in a very lucky situation, and afterwards where Muhammad's descendants, religious spiritual descendants, engaged in very active brutal warfare, also taking advantage of the fact that at the exact time where they were expanding, both the Eastern Roman Byzantines and the Persian Empire, which were a barrier in front of the Arabs, were both weakened and very exhausted, and the Muslim Empire basically took advantage of that and started expanding into their lands. I think it is. I think Muhammad was very delusional and really made up a God that he hijacked from Christians and Jews and mixed it with his local Arab pagan beliefs and practices, and that this belief was simply forced and spread in very tribalistic ways to the rest of the world. I don't think that there is a big evil going on. I just think that people are not that. I just think that people are very stupid, to be very honest. That humans are. I'm not saying specific people are stupid right now. I'm saying that
I
humans in
am.
general,
Sorry. All right.
humans in
Yeah.
general,
I would
are well,
say though that
we are very intelligent, but also very stupid in terms of accepting certain things at the time. And people who are nowadays Muslims are simply descendants of people back then who live with a religion that they were indoctrinated with without thinking much about it. And it is a very strong indoctrination, which is why they still believe in it.
okay, so if we're going to go with Muhammad existed for the minute, I suppose until better evidence presents itself, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
However, he had access to, at least Warwicker, who had access to correct scripture. So if this was some big, I can't think, like if he was propitiating just some massive lie, he got it so spectacularly wrong that it makes me believe that, like, for example, in one of the books of the Old Testament, which, I mean, both books were readily available for him, the Old and the New, but in the Old Testament at least, over and over, and in the New Testament, God explicitly says he doesn't lie, and other people say, well, it said in Titus that he can't lie, although I believe that's like linguistic license, but it says if he says he will do something, he will do it. If he makes a promise, he will do what he promised. That's in Numbers. And in John, and in like all over the place with John, he's got very high Christology and stuff about God. However, Muhammad is basically running around giving just such a 180, the greatest deceiver, or plotter, or planner, or schemer, whatever. Sorry, that's not against you, that's the translators. If the people that he was plotting back against were plotting, then he was plotting. If they were it's deceiving. We know that that's the word. Just in the Quran, he's not only a deceiver, he's the one who causes others to deceive or be deceived and stuff like that. So I can't imagine that Muhammad, if he existed, rather than peace be upon him, was I don't know. Biblically, Satan never denies the existence of God. However, he's more comfortable with seeming to not exist himself, or to making himself seem so comical, or like like a bogeyman, because then if there's no God, or if there's a God that we don't know about because of Satan, but there's no Satan, that means we are evil. We are the ones who are wiping out the Jews, for example, in Auschwitz. It's all down to human beings, which I don't say.
I think we're just humans who do things occasionally very atrocious, very horrible things, and justify
Where have you
them.
been? Have you seen what's happening in Nigeria and Pakistan?
No,
and
of course,
China,
people. Well, the thing is, humans have very strange ways to look at things. Humans have the capability of deceiving themselves into doing right things while they do very horrible things, which just reminds me of I don't know, Nietzsche, for example, is a philosopher that I like very much. He argues that humans have this ultimate desire to be powerful. That humans have this will to power, and that this will to power.
Hitler kind of liked that book.
Yeah. Because they misunderstood Nietzsche completely. and misrepresented him. He argues that humans have a will to power, and that this will to power blinds them into doing certain things that they consider good, while justifying it to themselves because they want power, and that they commit atrocities against others. I agree with that. I mean, I was in circles where I thought that we should, as Muslims, establish an Islamic State, that we should wage war, that we should, in the near future, if it happens, fight the Jews and fight the disbelievers and all that stuff. I did believe in these things. It's not like I can't sit here and act virtuous, act like I'm the great guy who rejected all that because I could never accept it. No, I believed in that stuff, and I thought that the Jews were the evil guys, and that we will fight the Jews and kill them until there is none of them left. And I thought that was the good thing because I was indoctrinated with that. That is what I was made to believe. When I look at it back right now, I feel disgusted by it. It feels so horrible to me. It feels stupid to me, and ridiculously hateful to me.
I agree with all of the rest of the, like, how silly it is. However, you just said it's because you were taught to believe that. You were taught to believe that killing people was right, and you went with it, hook, line, and sinker. And yet you're telling me, on the other hand, that society is not taught not to kill each other. Like, it's because we're innately averse and self-preserving, and so you can't have it. No. Hold on.
No. I think we have something against murder. That's the issue.
You were going to murder the Jews as a part of.
I know, but that's not what we call murder. We humans are stupid and make a distinction between justified killing and unjustified killing. We call unjustified killing murder, while we justify killing in other forms, and we establish some reasoning to rationalize and justify that killing.
Yeah.
While it is
dehumanizing. That's all it is. Dehumanizing.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
But that's tried and tested, and it's known. And if we were, I think if we were innately moral beings, we would see this twaddle coming when the politicians started downplaying people's like human characteristics, and or religious leaders were saying, well, let's love each other except for them lot over there, quick get them. Like, you'd be like, hold on a minute, me as my own moral agent. It doesn't happen because we are loath to go against the group, even if the group becomes Jew murdering, jihadi flag waving lunatics. Still, the human nature is to try to fit in or blend in or hide or not. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's studied and it's proven that we go along with obvious falsehoods rather than look silly. Even if everybody else says it's blue, we're most likely to go bluish, rather than realize orange.
Yeah, you probably saw the study or read about the study, the sticks that are of different length and
Solomon ash. Yeah. Preferencing. Yeah, it's true though. That's the thing, and it's able to be utilized by less than scrupulous people. And the fact that we have I'd like to, well, I wouldn't like to see your reasoning. It means I probably would lose my salvation. But I see these things and I see that there's absolute ethical behavior. There's absolute morality somewhere. Even if as someone who wasn't religious, I hadn't seen perfect morality, just the fact that, have you heard of Godel's theorem? No, it's an ontological argument. So his theorem has been proven by science as a philosophically sound proposition. And it basically goes, I'm going to butcher it, I can feel it coming on. But it goes something along the lines of, and it was started off with a maths preposition, something to do with maths can't be proven to be something or other. But the argument goes that if we can conceive of a perfect mathematical system, like as human beings, we do the calculation and then we check if it's correct with an answer that's already exists. Maths can't be manipulated, economics can. Maths can't be manipulated that the answer turns out to be untrue. We don't know if it's correct until we check it on a calculator, but it's always been true or not. And what, I wish I was Googling it now. Oh, not Google, because they're a bit satanic. Anyway, the point is that if it can be conceived that there is this perfect mathematical standard, or let's go with God, a perfect mind that can conceive a perfect mathematical system, of which we're only ever like catching up to it and making these calculations, then it would have to be through a super axiom, and that super axiom itself would be God. Because if something can be a perfect example, and we can't conceive it ourselves, it must come from a superior intelligence, as it were. But I butchered that, so I'm going to put that on the screen.
I understand, but
Yeah.
that just means that we are capable of seeing and reasoning, understanding things, and distinguishing between something that is bad and something that, or something that is wrong and something that is correct.
Now, when you're doing the equation, how do you know if you're correct or incorrect unless you verify it on some?
Of course, yeah, and
calculator?
we verify it and then eventually come to the conclusion that it is correct or that it is incorrect. I mean, that just means we have very
Maybe I think
brains.
I'm not doing it justice. It's just that
I
we
think
don't.
you are, because it's actually an argument that is very.
We do our calculation. We have our answer. We don't come to the conclusion it's correct. We ascertain its correctness from another source that is independent of our, like, you know, rending our clothes and like throwing our homework out of the window. It's already true or false. And if okay, there's another one, an ontological argument. If you can conceive, because you're quite big on conceptualizing and belief somehow being like equated to reality.
Yeah.
If you conceive of a perfectly moral divine being, say, you can imagine it in the most good, the most powerful, the most godlike God, in fact, you can perceive it in your mind. If your perception of it cannot be the greatest example of it, because then your perception would be God rather than the object that you are imagining or perceiving. That's Anselm. It's not a perfect ontological argument, but what it says is if you can conceive the greatest evil or the greatest good, then your perception or conception of it must be inferior to the manifest reality. You know, if we're all on some spectrum, there must be something at the end. Humans are not just churned out Matrix style.
I think it is a huge logical slippery slope. I know what you're talking about. I think it is a giant slippery slope. I don't think that actually the conclusion follows from the premises and the argument. I don't see the connection at all. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. It compares two different arguments again, where I simply see the same thing, that we see that something is the case. We see some reason or logic that we establish, and we conclude that this must somehow that this is somehow extraordinary, and it points at God. I just don't see
Godel's theorem.
I find it even
sorry.
I find it so incoherent. I don't even it's hard for me to actually take it apart this way. But
Well,
like, this is similar to the Kalam cosmological argument.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
No, Godel's theorem has been proven, not the object of the theory, but the theorem itself is presuppositional calculus. I think was that how it was put down. It is not fallacious in its reasoning, his theorem, not the object of what he's at, because it's a theorem that can be used, you know, like discriminately. So in that respect, it's not fallacious reasoning. You may therefore have an issue with the conclusion. The premises may still be reasonable, but if they're both true, obviously you must then conclude that the conclusion is true, which you don't. So one of the premises.
Well, I will have to look into that, but what I see there is that what is proven true is in that argument simply that, or in the theory simply that there are objective truths out there in the world. And objective, that there is an objective truth about certain things in the world, which is not objective truths in terms of however we can define objective truth, but that certain things, that certain equations, certain information is objectively correct. That's all